Okay, thank you everybody for coming down. I apologize, I started a little bit late, had a few technical difficulties, but all good to go. All right, Board President to advise members of the audience that they may address the board regarding agenda items after the superintendent's report. Only those members whose names and addresses are listed on the sign-in sheet available prior to the start of the meeting will be recognized during new business. The chairperson will limit discussions of any item by the public to 3 minutes in order for the board to expeditiously conduct its business. Mr. Delon.
Thank you, Mr. Zachary. It's nice, we're starting a little bit early tonight. And we have some very, I think, wonderful presentations tonight and insightful presentations. First, we have Mr. Harrison's going to go over the budget one more time and the capital reserve. And then we have our list teachers who are going to, talk about our literacy initiative, which is so important. No matter what, we could debate this all day long, but once a child learns how to read and can get information on their own, it opens up the world to them. And before I turn it over to Mr. Harrison, look, we are back up and running. Last night was great. I got to get up in front of the families of JFK. We had our first real concert in 2 years. Back in the auditorium. We did 2 sessions, a 6 o'clock and a 7:30, I think it was, or 7:15, and we wouldn't have fit everybody in if we didn't have 2 sessions. And just the sheer excitement, the joy, the families, the parents, the grandparents, listening to them where they're going to go after. We've had everything from NISMA here to SCMEA. Our sports teams have done wonderful, they've done wonderful things this year, long practices. We had 2 great plays this year. And normally, during the course of these meetings, we would acknowledge the children more. But what's amazing to me, and I was saying this to my mom the other day, 2 months ago, we still weren't comfortable being crowded together. Some people were, but some people weren't. We have hit back at warp speed, and what people tend to forget is September, October, November, December, January, February, we celebrate the kids. Then February, March, and April, we do the business of school, where we talk about the budget, and we make a conscious effort not to crowd the seats so that the public can come and listen. I hear that word all the time, transparency. All of our financials are up on the website. I'll dare I say, even I can find them. And if I can find them on the website, then I think most people can. But we want the public to see and hear what we're doing. We're extremely proud of where we're headed. Are we perfect? No. Are we trying to improve every day? Absolutely. And are we trying to, it's an interesting profession we're in. We are trying to train children for a future that we don't even know. We have kids sitting over at Timber Point and Connecticut Elementary that could be working in the year 2100. What skills are they going to need? And, all I would hope and pray is, because I have a funny feeling I'm not going to be there to talk to them. But all I would like them to say is, they got a good education in East Islip and it prepared them for their future. If you really look hard, you want to dig in and look at what we're doing here, we believe that over the past 10 years, we have really put some programs in place that are going to help our kids move forward. But we're also not resting on our laurels. We continue to try to put programs in place, like I said, for children who are going to be working in 2050, 2060, 2070, 2080, as Mr. Zachary likes to point, when I'll be long resting in pylon quietly, happily. So we are going to get back to celebrating. I think what we're going to try to do, we're going to do a little more, we'll celebrate some programs at the next board meeting. In June, we're going to really focus on seniors, because they're graduating. And then what we're going to commit to is September, October, November, and December of next year, these board reports will focus on an overview of the programs and the things that are being offered. It's been long, The COVID really threw these board meetings off. I remember days sitting up in my office, being on the phone without video, doing Board of Education meetings, which is not the way they should be. So I'm very excited about tonight. Mr. Harrison is going to talk to us now about the budget and the capital reserve, which we're proud of. And then our list teachers are going to show you some things that we think are going to do wonderful things for our kids coming out of COVID and moving forward. So Mr. Harrison, it's all yours.
I know some of the screens are a little small, so if you haven't already received a copy of the budget, we have it here. Should I pass them out, or not needed, or? Okay, thank you, Superintendent Dolan, Board of Education. I'd like to thank everyone involved with the budget process. It's quite a lengthy process from my office staff and my colleagues. It's collaborative, and I want to thank them for their part in this endeavor. Tonight's meeting is what's called a budget hearing. It's required by New York State. Each district must have this hearing within a certain time frame prior to the budget vote. Nothing has changed in terms of the budget presentation from the April 13th meeting, so I am reusing these reports. I do intend to go through this a little more quicker since we've seen this information now for the fourth time. So the agenda, as indicated, remains the same. We'll talk about revenue, then expenses, then talk about what happens in a contingent budget, and then finally the capital reserve proposition and budget timeline. So state aid to the district approved by New York State is roughly $39.7 million, or a 2.5% increase over this year's state aid. What I'd like to draw out here are three things. The district is fully funded for foundation aid. So if you read in the papers that districts are getting millions and tens of millions of dollars in additional aid this year versus prior years, it's because those districts are underfunded. East Islip's fully funded, so any increase is going to be on the smaller side, which is 3%. Universal pre-kindergarten is staying flat, which funds 117 full-time students in our universal pre-K program. And I just highlighted building aid for the purposes of noting that we have more current information than what was included in the governor's budget. We expect to receive roughly an additional $2 million in building aid than what's projected. So that is supported in our budget for this year, for next year. So when we look at state aid, we see that over the past several years, we've had a relatively flat trend in increases from one year to the next. We expect that to be relatively the same going into the future, since we are fully funded in foundation aid, which makes up roughly $29 million of the $40 million expected to be received. There were some changes in our tax cap calculation. The current calculation yields an allowable increase of 0.93%. So this is the amount the district is allowed to increase their tax levy by without getting a supermajority of 60% of the voters. Very briefly, the levy for this year is $72.9 million. New York State provides us with what's called a tax-based growth factor, and that is an estimation of the building and development that's going on within the boundaries of the East Islip School District for properties not yet on the tax rolls. So we're allowed to increase our levy by $357,000. Pilot payments, we have to look at the change from one year to the next. Our pilot payments are going up, so that reduces the amount we're allowed to levy. The next set of numbers, the capital tax levy exclusion, is the local share of the capital projects that the district has taken on. So it's our debt service, the cost to borrow, less the state aid that comes in. And then finally, we're allowed to increase our budget by the lesser of 2%, or the consumer price index. And as most of you are aware, inflation is skyrocketing right now. The most recent figure I have is 4.7%. However, the district is limited by this formula to increase by 2%. So put all this together, our allowable tax levy is 0.93%, and that's the amount that's supporting the proposed budget. So this just has similar information. It compares the tax cap calculation to the amount that we went out with this year as well as in previous years. And you can see from 15-16 through 2021, we were well below the tax levy cap that we could have taxed at each of those years. And this is really showing the same information just in a line graph. The gap between the top and bottom line is the amount that was not taxed as part of each year's budget. So what would have happened if each year the board and district chose to go to the cap? Our taxes would be as high as almost $82 million at this point in time, our tax levy. However, because we've had those years of being below the cap, our tax levy is $73.6 million. We looked at a calculation. I think that equates to probably $900 to $1,000 a year in difference in the tax bill to the community. So a sample assessment of a house assessed at $40,000, we yield a school tax for next year of approximately $7,819, which is a $72 increase over the previous year. So when you look at revenue in total, 59% of our revenue is supported by the tax base. The next larger contributor is state aid at 33% of our budget, or $41.5 million. The district is putting forth money out of its reserves or savings, surplus. There's a whole bunch of names you can use. However, we're increasing the amount that we're putting forth to support the budget and keep the tax rate where it is, and that's $5.7 million. So we have 2 pages worth of accomplishments and initiatives. This ranges from anywhere in equipment spending, where we're purchasing vehicles for our Buildings and Grounds Department, a work van and a pickup, possibly to be electric. We're buying a mower, a forklift. We're also making some improvements to our high school auditorium, which includes a pit filler, potentially a high school sound system. We're also making an expenditure for the fitness room, $225,000, as well as purchasing additional bleachers for the new fields that we have. In terms of technology, we're looking to increase our technology staff to go in line with how much additional one-to-one devices we have throughout the district. And we're also looking to maximize our Wi-Fi expansion. A number of positions in this year's budget are supported by grants due to COVID. The district has made a decision to continue those positions into the future and continually to reassess the effectiveness of those programs. In addition, we're embarking on a new elementary reading program with new textbooks, approximately $300,000, and we're also introducing a program at the middle school for math. So now we're moving to the expense side of the budget. Salary and benefits are going up 2.65%, or $2.3 million. The majority of that increase is in the line of employee benefits, and that's directly related to the increase in medical premiums for the health insurance plans that the district offers employees. The increase in premiums ranges between 10 and 12%. The remaining part of the budget is going up 4.22%, and that's $1.3 million. And the aforementioned equipment on the first line, you can see the effect there, as well as the textbook expenditures further down the page. The increase in BOCES includes the additional technician, as well as anticipated enrollment in special ed programs at BOCES. So overall, the budget increase is $3.7 million, or 3.07%. The next two slides just show each component's percentage of the total. So between employee benefits and salaries, that represents 73% of our budget. This was a much higher number in years past, going back 5 or 6 years. However, the district has become a little more flexible with its budget and is able to use funds in support of these technology endeavors and equipment purchases, as you'll see on the next page. So 73% of our budget is made up of salary and benefits. The remaining part is roughly 27%. The larger items would be our debt service and our BOCES expenditures, as well as transportation. Then you see the percentages here on this page. So moving on to the contingent budget. Should the budget not pass on the first time and the board decides to go right to contingency, or put up a vote for the second time and have that fail as well, the district's required to go to a contingent budget. So contingent expenses are those that are deemed absolutely necessary to continue and operate and maintain our educational programs, preserve the property, and assure the health and safety of students and staff. So what that means is we'd have to remove all student purchased supplies, as well as the equipment that we talked about on the previous page. So those things will be removed from the budget. In addition, the tax levy could be no higher than what it was in the current year. So when you put all these items together, the contingent budget will be $1.3 million more than this year's budget, which would then be a reduction of $2.4 million from the proposed budget. So our proposed budget is 3.07%. If we go to contingency, it would go up 1.1% and would have roughly $2.4 million removed from the proposed budget. We're also required to monitor the administrative component in the contingency budget. So this is what's called a three-part budget. It's broken down between administrative, program, and capital. And we see the numbers both for this year, our proposed budget, and how it would be on a contingent budget. So this is just presenting some historical information. Over the past 5 years, on the bottom you'll see the 5-year average increase on the tax levy equates to 0.786%, which, as we saw on the previous screen, is just a fraction of what could have been taxed if we had gone to the cap. The last column talks about the appropriated fund balance, so you see we're increasing that amount by roughly $800,000. Which is the highest point we've been at since 2019-20. On the ballot, there'll be a second proposition for what's called the capital reserve. We created a capital reserve back in 2016, and we've used the capital reserve in the past after voter approval. However, we were able to build back those funds to what's currently $5.9 million. So just like we needed voter approval to fund the reserve, we also need voter approval to spend this money. Without voter approval, these funds cannot be accessed and could sit there until we do get that voter approval. Which means we don't have to, if approved, we don't have to go to the community and ask for an increase in taxes or put pressure on the budget to fund these capital improvements. So what's included is the district-wide electrical upgrade, which will be used primarily to support air conditioners in every classroom. We've done quite a few bathrooms during the bond project. However, there are some that remain, so we plan to do those additional bathrooms. At the high school, we're looking to create a bus loop in between the high school and RCK to mitigate safety issue, to resolve that safety issues. Also planned are additional renovations to the theater music area at the high school, as well as other paving throughout the district. Excuse me. So as I said earlier, May 3rd is today. It's our budget hearing. In 2 weeks from today, the budget vote will take place in this building. from the hours of 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So if there are any questions from the board, I'd like to address them now.
Thank you, Mr. Carpel. Thank you for coming down. Mr. Harrison, I believe in the slide you just showed, I think it was 2021, the community approved a 0.8 budget, tax levy increase, but yet taxes went down. Can you explain why that happened?
The district is in control of the levy that it puts forth and the increase in that levy. What it does not control is the tax rate. So there are other components in the tax rate that outside of district control that affected that number. For instance, the properties in the district are split between homestead and non-homestead. So if there's any shift between those two classes, that will affect that tax decrease. So and also if the amount of assessed valuations in the district rises, that'll also impact the final tax rate, as well as any individual improvements to individual homeowners' properties.
So if the community approves a 0.93% increase, that doesn't necessarily mean their taxes will go 0.93.
That's correct.
And then, so the 0.93 equates to, I believe, 680,000? Would be the increase in the tax levy approximately?
Yes, approximately.
And how much of this budget is supported by reserves, that money that's already been taxed and is sitting in our bank? How much are we taking out to support this budget?
Close to $6 million.
Thank you. Mr. Harrison, thank you very much. Thank you for all the work you put in, you and your team, on the budget, for the many times you've come down here and given this presentation. So thank you very much.
Thanks for your support.
Before we go to the next presentation, does anybody have any questions on the board about the budget or the capital reserve?
Oh, come on.
The capital reserve is money that we already have, that the people already said, yes, we're gonna give you this money, please use it wisely. And this is the list that you've come up with.
Essentially, just a brief history, when we did the bond, we were told we had $80 million worth of infrastructure. And this is money that we're getting the bond we're getting almost 70 cents back on the dollar. We had a list of 80 million, but we only borrowed 60, and I'm rounding off here, because that's what the number that was tax neutral. So we simply, as the bond is finishing up, and we should be finished, we put out some of the we run the last legs of the bond. But what we said was the capital reserve was started in case the bond failed. We would start to work on our infrastructure, which was deteriorating rapidly. What we did was we said whatever's in the capital reserve as the bond ends, because that money is earmarked for capital projects and capital projects only, we would go back to that list of 20 million and start to eat away at it. And these are the projects that were identified priority wise. And just so the public knows, we're already thinking about where the district is going to be in 2035. We're talking about electricity. The highlight of this capital reserve for the public, I believe, is air conditioning in the classrooms. But ADA compliance with all our bathrooms is important. If the capital reserve fails, we still have to do this work. We'll just have to take money from the budget over the next 4 or 5 years and do it, which would either raise taxes or take money from programs. This money, the state, if you follow the state's plan, if you don't put bond on top of bond on top of bond, if you do it every 20 years or so, it's actually an excellent plan. And to answer your question, Mrs. Walsh, these are the next items on that list.
And then the list is finished.
If the capital reserve passes, we really do not see any other major capital projects until 2035, when you'll be doing windows, electricity for electric cars. What else did we say, Ms. Harrison? There was one other thing. Oh, the tennis courts at the middle school, and because the roofs, the bathrooms, everything else will be good. So we will leave a little note for the next generation saying this is what we did. this is what, we are in the process now of fixing our windows so they'll last another 15 years. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome. We're good? All right. At this time, I'd like to introduce Tracy Nelson, Heather Sini, Rose Eager, and Rob Chiarelli, who are going to walk us through our list initiative. So why don't we give them a nice round of applause?
I'd like to thank Mr. Dolan and the Board of Education for inviting us here today. My name is Heather Sini. I've been in East Islip for 27 years, teaching elementary school, starting at the ECC with kindergarten, and then JFK in 3rd grade, and now I am the LIS teacher, or the Literacy Intervention Support teacher at JFK Elementary School.
Hi, my name is Tracy Nelson, and I began my career 23 years ago here at East Islip. I began as a Montessori preschool teacher right here in the ECC. Then I was promoted to kindergarten teacher, and then moved over to Timber Point, and now I am the current Literacy Intervention Support teacher, LIS teacher at Timber Point.
Hi, I'm Rose Eager. I've been teaching in East Islip School District for the past 22 years. I have taught several grade levels over my career, and this year I have the fortunate benefit of being the LIS teacher at Connecticut Elementary School.
Hi everybody, I'm Rob Chiarelli. I've been teaching in East Islip for more than 20 years. I began at Connecticut Elementary, and when we redistricted, I moved to Ruth C. Kinney. So we are going to give a little background about what we do as LIS teachers. So we, as LIS teachers, literacy interventionist support teachers, we push into all the classrooms in all the buildings across the district, delivering Tier 1 literacy lessons via interactive read-alouds.
In Tier 1 lessons, the skills taught are on each grade level as per the New York State Next Generation Learning Standards.
Every student is taught the skill utilizing the same language in order to promote consistency across the classes, grades, and buildings.
Lessons are delivered according to grade level student performance measures, and these measures vary according to grade levels.
In grades 3, 4, 5, we used SWAT, which is School-Wide Assessment Team data, iReady data, Fontes and Pinnell benchmark assessments.
And in grades K1 and 2, we also use the school-wide assessment team data, iReady for 2nd grade, and the Fontes and Pinnell benchmark assessments.
This year, the LIS lessons have been delivered collaboratively with the classroom teachers on a regular basis.
So some examples of the skills that we have taught this year, grades K and 1, are understanding fiction and nonfiction genres and analyzing the writer's craft.
In K1 and 2, the students study authors and illustrators, and they look closely at print.
In the intermediate grades at JFK and RCK, we looked at multiple diagnostics and their results, and the JFK and RCK students showed that they had room for growth in the areas of nonfiction text features to gain information, and noticing how authors organize information in both nonfiction and fiction. These are not things that are specific to East Islip. Across the board, intermediate students across the nation need to have more growth in these areas.
So that last bullet, simply just back up one slide. That last bullet, this is a skill that if you've ever sat with any child or if you've ever read difficult text, you know that you are going to come across unfamiliar words that you have never seen before and do not know the definitions of. So we have spent great amounts of time explaining to children how to use context clues and parts of words to understand these challenging pieces of vocabulary when they come across them in text. This next slide it's a snapshot of in Ritzy Kinney and JFK. This is iReady. This is a adaptive reading assessment that the students do on their personal devices. And when I say adaptive, I mean that the program actually reacts according to how they're doing. So if they're doing well, it challenges them. If they're struggling, it comes down a little bit to meet their needs. But it still gives an accurate reading of how they've done. So this first benchmark was given in October, and the second one was given in January. And it's kind of hard to see, but that bar on the left, that's grade 3. They showed a 10% increase from in that 3.5 month period. In grade 4, 11%, and grade 5, 8%. Now this is just grades 3, 4, 5, and this is just informational nonfiction text. So this is a small snippet of what we do, but it is a part of what they have to read, and that includes books, articles, interpreting graphs, data, charts, and text features.
So we gain this information, or can we go back to that slide? I'm sorry. Cassandra Nitty, the BOCES East Islip Shared Data Specialist that we employ, designed these targeted graphs to show the growth for RCK and JFK in the areas that Mr. Chiarelli and I focused on this year.
And here are some students from Connecticut and Timber Point sharing what they like best about LIST. We have our friend Matthew, Emma, Jackson, and Helen.
Request one, please, yeah. The one on the left, please. Yeah.
I like the Miss Peter teaches us how to read fluently, and I like the books that she reads us, like Cookies by Robert Bush. And I like how she teaches us ironic words, and she teaches us what books. She teaches us about nonfiction and fiction books, and I really like them a lot. Hi, my name is Emma. I'm in kindergarten, and I love going listening to Nelson because I love animal tales.
And what did you learn about animal tales?
I learned about the little red hen.
And what did you learn?
I learned about the good characters and the bad characters.
And who are the good characters in the little red hen?
The little red
And
hen.
who are the bad characters?
The dog, the mouse, and the cat.
And what do the animals do in animal tales that make them animal tales?
They act like people.
Awesome. Do you remember any other animal tales we talked about?
The three little Billy Goats graph.
Oh, who are the good characters in the three Billy Goats graph?
The three Billy Goats.
And who is the bad character?
The troll.
Good. What's the important number in animal tales?
3.
Were there any other animal tales that you learned about besides three Billy Goats graph and Little Red Hen?
Goldilocks and the 3 bears.
And who's the good character in that animal tale?
3. The big bear, the middle-sized bear, and the teeny weeny bear.
Oh, did you learn anything else? When I come into your class, what else did you learn?
About the author's messages.
And what book did you learn in author's messages?
Say hello.
Say hello. What was the author's message in Say hello?
Including and not excluding.
Excellent. Do you remember any other? What's where we learned author's message?
The cow that went wink.
And what was the author's message? What did you learn most? What did you learn from this book?
Differences.
Are they okay? Is it okay to be different?
Yep.
Great job, Emma. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. is Jackson, I'm in first grade. I love when Mrs. T. Nelson walks in because I learn punctuations. One punctuation is a question mark. That's when the player is telling a question. I also learned ellipses, which is the three dots. That means that the sentence isn't over. I also learned speech bubbles and thought bubbles. Speech bubbles are when the player is talking, and thought bubbles are when the player is thinking. And I also learned where the words are placed. And in Big Blue Whale, the words were placed, like where was the tail next to the rock. It was like a smiley face upside down. And also in the potatoes, I forgot what it's called, but it's kind of like peaches, no, not peaches, pears, and there was like a big mountain of pears, and the words were placed like a big mountain, and also there was like little mountains, the words were placed kind of. She makes us laugh sometimes, and she also reads us a lot of books, and we learn like author's note and the book cover. And every time I go to Miss Rizzo, I tell her all the things that we learned, and I find the book and show her the thing that Miss Eager taught us. I like when Miss Eager teaches us how to read, like the books that she makes us laugh sometimes. Hi, my name is Jackson, and I'm a first grade. I love when Mrs. T. Nelson walks in.
This is what a classroom really sounds like. So we have some student testimonials from the JFK and RCK students about how they feel about the list lessons and what they've learned.
They did have a lot to say, and we would be here till, would have to order breakfast if we played videos from everything they wanted to say. So we just tried to give a cross-section of some of the things that we have done and that they have remembered that we have done. So all the students hear consistent language, so when all the fifth graders leave, they will have heard the same lessons and they will use the same verbiage when they read and when they explain what they're reading. So it's definitely increasing the consistency. So I think the 6th and 7th grade teachers are going to notice a huge difference. I think that's one.
That's the end.
Hold on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, hold on a second. Can't let you off the hook. First of all, I'm very proud. I say this all the time. I'm third generation and family of teachers, mostly English teachers. I know we talk about what came first, the chicken or the egg. When you grow up in a house full of English teachers or a family full of English teachers, everything you read can be interpreted differently. Punctuation, by the way, it's great when your mother proofreads something and then your father proofreads it and they're moving each other's commas around. There is a certain amount of interpretation to, how you punctuate. But the one thing they always agreed on, writing cements ideas. The Romans knew that. Chisel the rules, chisel the laws into the rock in the middle of town so that everybody knows what they are. But you have no thought without reading. You have no thought without the inspiration that comes from reading the written word. And so I want to first ask the board, do you have any questions for these teachers about the program?
Do you have the PowerPoint you just did? Do you have a copy of that somewhere?
We do. We can share it. Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to see that. And also, happy Teacher Appreciation Day for all the teachers that are out there. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
great presentation. Go ahead, Bill. No,
I
after
have
you.
questions, you're gonna...
Great presentation. I love the videos. Maybe Mr. Harrison, you can incorporate some videos into your budget presentations. And so we've heard great things about the program. And when we think about kids in second grade now, all that they've gone through from when they were in kindergarten, and all the restrictions from being taught at home and everything else, and no carpet time and reading. I hear it's a great program that's really trying to work with the kids and get them caught up. And I've heard great things, so thank you. The only bad thing I've heard about the program is that parents with older kids, their younger kids will not have you as full-time teachers. So that's the only negative I've heard about all four of you and how great you've done. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you. Let there be light.
I just have a couple questions. How do the push-ins work? Do you push in the whole class? Do you push in the whole class all the time, or?
No,
Yes, it's hopeful.
I think it's different for each teacher, but we do push into a whole class, and it's tier 1 instruction, so it's every classroom in the building. That includes the children with special needs also. And when we go in there, it depends on the lesson, but they're usually about 40 minutes, depending on who's teaching.
Another thing you mentioned was the iReady scores, but more than that, like more than just data from a device, anecdotally, and what do you guys think about the program? Like we look at the data and we say, hey, that looks great, but how do you feel about the success of the program? I mean, we've only heard good things.
The LIST program or iReady program?
List.
I mean, we love.
You're in the room with the kids. What are you finding?
So we've seen a lot of excitement for reading too, and a love for reading, which I feel was lost a little bit during COVID because of the fact that the students were on the computer listening, and there's nothing like holding a book. And seeing the book and looking at the pictures and turning the pages and getting the children excited about reading. And I feel that this program does that. And it gives them a little more excitement. And they have a better understanding. And it's also a different teacher teaching them, which gives them a different experience, which is something they might need in the future when they go into the intermediate schools and they find in the junior high and the middle school and the high school.
Now, I don't know if you were all residents, but if you were, are you residents of East Islip? Would you want this program in your own district?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
So what's really powerful is we're basically delivering many of the same skills and concepts that the students have heard from the classroom teachers, but it's a new and shiny delivery from a new and shiny person with a different perspective, a different tone in their voice, different techniques. So it changes the whole dynamic of the day when we go in there. It breaks their day up from their teacher and from whatever other subjects they do, and then they're hearing something again. So whether they're hearing it for the first time from us or the second time, they always get excited when they say, oh my goodness, she says this all the time and you're saying the same thing. So it's that repetitive instruction, but from a different point of view and a different technique, because we do things different than the teachers do them. So it's really exciting for them. It makes their day go fast. And yesterday I was leaving one of the rooms and it was 5 to 3, and as I walk out, they said, today went so fast. Why? Because they had their regular day and then they had me in the end of the day, and it made the day it felt had a different feel to it. So I think you look at children and you look at their ages and their attention spans, this really plays right into their strengths, because all of a sudden it's boom, it's a new perspective, it's new books, it's new reading, it's new techniques, and but it's still the same skills. So we're just repackaging it, rebranding it, and reinforcing it for them.
And our colleagues are in the room with us while we're doing the lessons, and they're able to make the connections with what they've already taught that links in with the lessons that we're currently teaching. So there is that sort of back and forth, so the teacher helps make the connections with what they've already learned to what they're learning in our lesson.
And think about one of the ways children learn best is through repetition. So the more times they hear something, the better they have a chance of remembering it or storing it in their long-term memory. So this is an effective program for them.
And you guys feel like you're reaching enough of the kids?
We're reaching all of them.
Yes.
All
364.
Yeah, I have 327 new friends.
Yep, or 417.
I'm going to round it off and say that's close to 350.
We're privileged to not only teach all of the students in each of our respective buildings, but we get to know every student in the building, and we get to impact them.
And get to work collaboratively with other classroom teachers. Even when we were on a grade level, we only got to work, you're in the classroom all day long, and now we get to see, other classes and other teachers and get to speak with them and talk about it, so it is amazing.
Probably the only drawback is that you have to say hi to 327 kids every day.
And remember their names, it's the hardest part of the job, is remembering everybody's name.
And my last, 2 questions. The Founders Pinnell material, do you find that helpful?
Wonderful.
We are a Fontana Pinnell district, we use it for benchmarking
Yeah, I know.
too. Yeah,
I know that
so-
it is.
Yeah.
I know it's very controversial now.
It is, there are some, but it is a great program, we've used it, before, so part of their Fontana Pinnell program is.
Yeah, and the reading skills are the reading skills, and they're still going to be the same skills that we learned, that children need to learn, that the standards support, and that makes them stronger readers and increases their comprehension. So it's still, like I said, it's still the same skills that they need to strengthen, no matter how you look at it and how we address it. It's consistency, and they're hearing the same language, so it's.
Do you think that the district is supporting your efforts?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
But
Yeah.
is there other things that, I know I'm gonna get in trouble for asking this, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Is there other things that we can do to help?
Well,
Because
I
it
think-
sounds like we took a leap of faith when we decided to do this, and it wasn't a very, it was, I don't want to say controversial, but we were, I guess skeptical is a word, yeah. And then we were skeptical about it, and the first year it ran, it was grant funded, and now it's being funded by the district. So, I think you guys are fantastic, and I love the things you said. And saying hello to kids is just as important as reading to kids. So, I think it's great. I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
Yes, we feel very supported.
All right, good.
And we feel successful.
Can you push into the superintendent's office? 'Cause
We spent plenty of time with Mr. Dole.
now I'm really worried about the outcomes.
Well, no, but I think the nice thing you mentioned too is the synergy you have with the other
Thank you.
teachers in the building, the other teachers in the building, and and having consistency across the district that we didn't always have. So, are there any more questions before I dismiss Tracy, Heather, and Rob, because they have to get up and go to work tomorrow.
I just wanted to add that I appreciate the presentation and I appreciate everything you're doing, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And you guys have to go home, you got lesson plans to do, so.
Thank you for making reading fun.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. Stay home.
Thank you, Mr. Zachary.
Okay, public comments of agenda items only. Okay, be resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the resignations, terminations, leaves of absence, position abolitions, employment appointments, tenure appointments, and salary changes in accordance with applicable provisions of education law and civil service law as cited in the certified personnel attachments. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the resignations, terminations, leaves of absence, position abolitions, employment appointments, tenure appointments, and salary changes in accordance with applicable provisions of education law and civil service law as cited in the non-certified personnel attachments. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, consent agenda items, 9.1 to 9.10. Anybody want anything removed? I'm going to ask that 9.5, the audit report, be removed. Anything else? Okay, so 9.1 through 9.4 and 9.6 through 9.10. Take a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
9.5, be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Audit Committee, the Federal Single Audit Report for year ending June 30th, 2021 from R.S. Abrams and Company, LLP, be accepted by the Board of Education. Be it further resolved that the corrective action plan developed in relation to the Federal Single Audit be accepted by the Board of Education. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Discussion. Mr. Harrison, were there any recommendations made by the audit?
Yes, there was one recommendation. Just to give a little background, because the district receives grant funds from the government in excess of a certain dollar amount, we're required to have an audit performed annually. It's called the Federal Single Audit. And we receive over $2.1 million in grant funding in the 2021 school year. And part of that funding not only includes the special education grants as well as the title grants, but it also includes the cafeteria funding that we receive. And in reviewing the cafeteria program, the recommendation was that the district receives free and reduced applications for the meals provided by the district. So decisions are made on each application based upon guidelines, and if they're deemed to be free, there's no charge for meals. If they're deemed to be reduced, that charge is a quarter, 25 cents. And the recommendation was that we have a second individual review these applications to make sure that the initial review is done in an accurate manner. So we've agreed with that recommendation, and we have developed a system to have these applications reviewed by a second individual. And let me just add, if I could, the audit committee met last week and has agreed to recommend this corrective action as well as to recommend acceptance of the audit to the Board of Education.
What was the scope of the audit?
The scope is, it's not, they do some testing in general areas within the grant. So part of the goal is to receive an unmodified opinion of our financial statements, which we did receive. And then part of that scope is to analyze the internal controls that are in place and to make recommendation where they see perhaps some room for improvement. It's not that they reviewed our free and reduced applications and came up with errors. It's they just suggesting to strengthen internal controls, we institute a double check on these applications.
And after that review, that was the only corrective action that was recommended?
That's correct.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Thank you to our audit committee.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, we met, was it last week, 2 weeks ago? So thank you to everyone on the audit committee for your time. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Be resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education accepts the donation of $500 from the High School National Art Honor Society Club. This donation will be added to the district's Art Scholarship Fund for art scholarships to be given to graduating seniors in June 2022. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. Thank you very much to the National Art Honor Society. I mean, when you go to these fundraisers and support the clubs, this is the benefit that you see here. So $500 going to a graduating senior who has obviously an interest in the arts. So this is a great thing. So please keep supporting our clubs and programs. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the attached list of appropriation changes for the 21-22 school years. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any old business?
I got old business. So last meeting I reported out about 2 events that were taking place after the conclusion of our April meeting. So we had the SEPTO Craft Fair that took place here on the grounds of the district office property. I just wanted to report out that it was well organized and very well attended. I had a chance to come down and spend some time here myself, just checking out the different vendors that were here. So I just wanted to thank the SEPTO board for their efforts putting that event together for the community. And additionally, I mentioned about the EJ Autism Walk that happened the next day on Sunday. So I just wanted to thank B and all the people who helped organize that event. It was nice really seeing the community out there again and being active. So like Mr. Jones spoke about it in his report, the community involvement piece was terrific. So just being at that event as well, seeing the community out there. So that's why I have full business.
Thank you.
I have something to report. On April 28th, I attended the Broadcast Awards for Senior High School. They took place at Stony Brook University. And our WFTK broadcasting crew got 3 trophies, 2 third-place trophies and 1 second-place trophy, which is phenomenal given that we haven't had the WFTK broadcasting group together for that long. There were other schools there that have been together for 15 years. And these kids just loved it, and I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Connell and Mr. Lochner. They did an unbelievable job. These kids were excited. You had a professional broadcaster there from CBS, I believe, who was gave a keynote and gave the kids different pointers. Whoever came in first place, they showed their actual video and presentation. And I'm expecting in a few years, we're going to have a few first places. And I believe we're going to try to get them together at the June meeting or the next meeting. But they did a phenomenal job. And I was very proud of them, and I was so happy to be there.
Thank you.
And just to piggyback on what Mr. Rulon said, this is part of the evolution, you know, and we believe there's something at, you know, across the board for every child in the district. You know, we'll have more to say about this over the next couple of months, but everything from, you know, we're looking at clubs at the elementary level, and I've said this over and over again, especially some sort of theater. It doesn't have to be full-blown productions, you know, especially in the K2 or even 3-5, but, you know, that's an area where I've always said you know, there seems to be lessons and camps and things for everybody, except for the little guys in theater. But as part of the vision, if you remember in 2017, we put out a survey, you know, the students wanted cosmetology, 2-year BOCES is coming back. We've added to the AP program with the AP capstone, and, you know, we'll continue to grow everything in between. Hopefully the Innovation Lab will come to fruition at the end of the bond. But WFTK, the multimedia, we hope to have, you know, the social media, we hope, you know, hope to have a digital newspaper. Piggybacking on robotics, you know, one of my favorite memories of my entire career is standing upstairs and looking down at high school, middle school, and elementary school kids looking up at a drone, and it was almost like watching, the drone was like the bird, and the children were being, you know, when they feed the baby bird. But this was all an offshoot of, you know, that the long-range planning and the surveys and the evolution of what we offer the kids. So, you know, I was lucky enough to go up with Mr. Rulon for a little while, and again, it wasn't about the trophies, as Mr. Rulon said, it's just about the excitement of competing against other schools and putting our best foot forward, whether it's in the area of literacy, you know, with Nisman, Scamia, you know, with the music, you know, getting kids to good places, the robotics, and you know, the Bash Awards. I think now I know what Bash meant, I didn't know what Bash meant. You know, we don't like to say Bash around the high school because Lord knows what could come after that. But, you know, it is, we're back, we're in business, and there are a lot of good things happening for kids, and a lot of new and exciting things that are evolving, you know, and that's what we really should be extremely proud of, the whole community.
Well, thank you for reminding me, Mr. Dolan. I went to the Connecticut PTA meeting a week or 2 ago, and that got brought up as far as the K2 clubs. I know with COVID and everything going on the last couple of years, some things have taken a back seat, but some things are important to make sure we bring up and bring back. And one of the things that came up was the K2 clubs and having something for those kids to do, something special, something fun in their school. So perhaps we could keep that in mind for next year's budget, including that.
It's in this year's, but it's in the budget for next year. And just remember too, like I said before, 8 weeks ago, we weren't even sure who could be at these meetings and did we have to wear a mask or not. You know, we've come back very quickly. I'm very proud of the way people have been flexible and adaptable under, you know, these circumstances. But we've had some natural communication glitches, and I won't bore you with some of the details, but there was one interesting story where I was told 2 things, and I thought to myself, Lord, the one person over here, that definitely is not them, and this is not them. They were actually almost like they confused people. And when I picked up the phone and made a phone call, what I found out was there was a third person involved who said, I don't think we can do that, when in fact, we had already said we could do it. You know, getting back to normal, whatever that is, it just takes a little bit of patience, and, you know, they don't, like I said, the communication sometimes is a little slower than our excitement, but like I said, elementary clubs, here we come.
Awesome, thank you. Any other old business? New business?
I just wanted to bring up the fact that that listing was fantastic. And I was wondering, I was sitting here thinking, maybe we should do that more often. You know, when people come onto the campus, they see all the structural and outside changes that we've made and don't realize all the great things that are going on inside these buildings academically. You know, so I think it would be nice to have some teachers in different disciplines come up and just say, hey, this is what we're doing now, we're doing different things. But also, it's good for teachers to show what they're doing. Like, it would be great to have the Blackner come in, or it doesn't matter what the academic discipline is. We're doing a lot of good things inside those walls. It's not just been the building and the construction. So I don't know, I enjoyed that today. I thought that was great.
And then, Bill, remember, we used to do that, and we talked earlier in the meeting, we're going to start, especially September, October, November, December next year, we might not be able to get to all the underclassmen and individual awards, but we're certainly going to bring in, because we talked about it, the plays were phenomenal. Remember when we would bring the kids in from the play and they would sing up here for the board meeting? Couldn't do it this year. And those plays were awesome, off the charts. Skamia, Nisma, those kids you got to see them. Those kids go in there and they're on a mission, and it's Saturday and they could be doing other things, and you just walk down the hall and listen to those kids play, and to see, Mr. Nesky's here, but Dr. Wadawa and the music, department, they put in a lot of time and effort so these kids can challenge themselves.
That's what I was saying. It would be nice. We see the kids' awards, and we hear from the directors. But I think it would be nice to hear, from the teachers, like, what's going on in those classrooms. I think that, there's a lot of great things that are going on.
Are you announcing now that you're running again? Because we're going to do this. So is you announcing it's just kickoff of your campaign?
Lester and the mock trial team.
Time to pass the torch.
Listen, mock trial has more state championships than football.
Awesome. Any other new business?
There was a group of junior class parents that did a fundraiser because the junior class was short on funds due to COVID. They were very restricted in what they could do. So a group of parents took it upon themselves to help the junior class and raise some money for them. So they are donating at the next junior class meeting $7,540 to help offset the cost of prom and help kick off their senior year next year. So thank you to those parents who took that upon themselves.
We're back, man. We're just back.
Well, no, and Mrs. Walsh is being humble because I know she was right in the middle of all that. But I believe that this idea came about roughly 8 weeks ago. And you folks came and said, we need to raise money for the junior class, and we're going to do this. And I can remember thinking to myself, wow, it's going to be a lot of work. And, I thought if you got halfway to the goal, it would have been great. But a big, big thank you to the junior parents who went above and beyond. And as Mr. Korkluck said, we're back.
Any other new business?
So I just wanted to just put it out there as a reminder to the community overall. The Long Range Planning Committee, we put out a survey. The survey concludes this Thursday, the 5th. It's been sent out Parent Square, but if you're not on Parent Square, it's on the district website. You can access it. So again, just a reminder for folks to do that because we're looking for that information and feedback. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, and Mike, I'm glad you said that. I apologize also on Parent Square. I keep sending out messages about the budget capital reserve meetings, but what I do is every time someone calls and wants another date, we're happy to add it. And I'm going to surprise everybody now. We just opened the bids for the back lobby and the front lobby at the high school, as part of the bond. And we have a couple of really nice things planned. And going along with the WFTK idea, You know, the hallway by the music department has been one of the ones that I've talked about. We have copies of the playbills from going back 35, 40 years, and nobody ever sees them. And so we've been talking to Mr. Lackner upstairs about how can we bring those to life? How can we, in the back of the building, maybe honor some of our teams? We're going to have interactive showcases, but I think the centerpiece is going to be, we're going to have a veterans showcase, and we want to honor everyone who served. We believe we've located a book that we're going to be able to identify every East Islip resident who has served in the armed forces. We think that that's going to be, a wonderful reminder of people that sacrifice so that we can have, the life that we have. And also, we got a phone call from Senator Boyle and Senator White's office combined just this week. They have a ceremony a medal ceremony for Vietnam veterans. I'm not sure how many, on Saturday, June 21st. And they had a venue, but they were bumped from their venue. So we have opened up the doors, and I'll get you more details, but we're going to honor some veterans who, quite honestly, weren't treated as well as they should have been when they came home, but we're going to do our best to help make up for that. And I believe it's Saturday, June 21st. I'll get you all the facts. And, again, these are the wonderful things that we can do. Senator Boyle, who is moving on, he's not going to run for re-election, and Senator White have been great friends to the district, and so we were happy to, open our auditorium, and as the details become available, it might be nice if we had a few people standing outside cheering as they go inside, so I'll let you know.
If we could look into that, I think the 21st is a Tuesday, so maybe it's the 25th or the 18th. But we'll get
Mr.
that
Zachary,
going.
always crown me.
Yeah, I know.
Never let facts get away with a good story.
Yeah, people lining up on the wrong day.
Hey, you know what? I got Joanne Mann and Stephanie Parker. I don't have to worry about the details.
Thank God for
Thank God somebody's running this district.
Okay, and the new business. Okay. Public comments. Stephanie.
Charles Kalinowski.
Good evening, Charles Kalinowski. How you all doing?
Good evening, John.
Well, first I want to touch upon Mr. Karpuk. You had mentioned some things about the schools, and you're right. The schools sometimes don't get noticed for the good. Islip Bulletin puts out a lot of articles, South Bay. So if any of you take a look, there's a lot of nice things going on. So you might want to check that out. I was just taking a few notes as you were speaking. Mr. Dolan, you put up a good point. The 8 weeks since the kids had the masks. Beautiful. Seeing those smiles again, really. That was the best part of that presentation, seeing those beautiful smiles. And, thinking about it was a little upsetting because we went through a lot. Mr. Zachary, the Long Range Planning Committee, that touches upon what he was saying. We had discussed that, so a lot of good stuff.
Yes,
I did have an issue though when I was trying to do the survey. It's like 50 questions. On Parent Square, it wouldn't go through. It wouldn't go through. So, gotta check that out. Also, what else did I want to say? SEPTA was interesting. Michael and I were there. I'm sorry, Mr. Dorgan. We were all there. That was very interesting. I think a lot of parents appreciate that. Sometimes we don't think about the students who aren't athletes and scholars, but those children need to be recognized. So guess what? That was very special. So as a parent and as somebody who works with children all the time, I appreciate that. I wanted to say something special to Mrs. Kench. She had recognized my son as one of the champions, and that meant a lot to me as a parent, and my wife and I were really happy to see that they recognized being good human beings, and that's what that meant, that award. So I just want to say, Charlie, I love you. We're very proud of you. And I just wanted to say another thing. The fact that you've had 10 capital reserve meetings and 8 more planned says if you're not listening, you've had the opportunity to come to all these meetings, to speak. You can't say you didn't get your chance. So if anybody's listening out there, this board is giving you an opportunity to speak. So you can't say you didn't get one. And also, I took a close look at all the budgets, the propositions, and I'm really looking forward to speaking about it next week. And I just want to say thank you to everybody, and thank you for the community, because we all went through a lot, and we made it. And God bless this community, and God bless America.
Thank you, Charlie.
Charlie, thank you, and thank you for the plug on SEPTO. I meant to bring that up. That was a great meeting. And our SEPTO team works very hard. They put together great presentations even before the meetings. I believe they start about 6:15. And the last one was about self-care. Parents who obviously life is not easy between work and the kids and school, and just to be able to take care of yourself first. And it was a great presentation that they gave. So anytime you get a chance to attend, they do offer the meetings online. If you're just home and you could take a half hour, 45 minutes and watch them, it's worth the time. So great job by our SEPTO committee, and thank you, Charlie, for bringing that up. Stephanie? That's all. Becca's not here today. Maybe she agreed with me. Maybe she agreed with what I've been telling her.
Can we go on the record, Chris, that self-care was directed at your wife, not at you, okay? You're supposed to go and do some work. Susan needs a break, okay? I just want to make sure.
She does need a break. God bless her.
There we go.
All right. Meet the candidate. Meet the candidate night is going to be, is that May 12th?
May 12th.
May 12th, 7 p.m. Do we know yet if that's going to be open to the public, or that's going to be again just online? All right, just check with the PTA pages. If you'd like to come down, if it's open to the public, it's a great thing to attend. If not, definitely check it out online. So this way you get to know the candidates who are running for the school board. It's always a very interesting night. So definitely May 12th, 7 o'clock, please tune in to the PTA presentation of Meet the Candidate Night. And the next Board of Education regular business meeting will be held on, this is a Tuesday, May 17th at 8 p.m. So please get out and vote, very important. Please don't think, whichever way you're going to vote, that your vote doesn't matter. It does matter, very much so. So please make sure you get out and vote, very important, and certainly get to know the candidates and vote for whoever you think would be the best trustee on the Board of Education. So with that being said, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor?